Hey everyone, welcome to my video for the button plus on your Homey. I will cover the more advanced features now, um, and I will start with the start. So on the display, you have two buttons. Those button actions can actually not be configured from this place. So what you need to do, you need to go to your flows. When you create a flow, you could just say like, hey, you're gonna add if, go to your button plus, and then choose the one on the display. Let me see where it is. There it is. So you can choose like if the left button on the display configuration. So on the display configuration number, well, typically it's one, right? Because that's the first configuration you're gonna set. When it's clicked, then do this action. So what I did is I created flows from there. So that's this. So when I push the left button on display configuration number one, then I change to configuration number two. And then when I push the left button on configuration number two, I'm going to switch to configuration number one. Well, so far, nothing special. But then you want to set the menu text. That's something you can set through a flow too, but I'm using a trick to do that. So what I did is I added a virtual device. So what you do, you want to add a new device, device capabilities, advanced virtual device. That's an application you can just get in the Homey store. You're gonna connect it. You can choose just use an empty one. You can load presets, but it's something you don't need. You choose an icon. Well, I will just go for the water one because yeah, it will load. Sometimes this takes long, but sometimes it's pretty fast. Well, there you go. Then to configure it, you go to repair, and you want to create some text fields. And to show how I've done that, I go to my own one. So I've created a text field button left, and I've created a text field button right. Well, I just put it as a sensor because yeah, you're not going to use this anymore in this application, and you can just save the device. So then, going back to the flows, what you do here is then you're gonna say after change configuration two, then you're gonna go to advanced device capabilities. Well, I've created it. Mine is called flow starter, and then you can say put text field to a text. So I'm gonna say put text field button left to text. Hey, hey, this is left. Then when you push the button and you put it in a flow, it will update the text on the position you have set in the display to the text you've put in here. So when I look at the device display, this is my item number 16. So what it did, I selected the virtual device called Flow Starter. That's my name. I choose what it needs to get in terms of information. I choose for, well, get the information from bottom left. I don't give it a label because it will just add the text there. And then I've put it all at the bottom, which is the 83 percentage number, and then how wide I want to be that number, or sorry, that text field to be. And the same I do for the right version. That's again the virtual device button right, and I give in the position, well, of course, a little bit more to the right, and still on the bottom of the screen. That's the buttons for creating the menu. But now coming back to the menu itself. Again, I'm using this for the flow. So what you do is you create a flow where you're saying when the right button on this display configuration, that's number one for me, was clicked, or that's why I use the any button for display configuration number three. The button right was clicked. Then do the following action. Why I don't use display configuration number two here? That's because on my configuration number two, there's an agenda for my kids' school, and I will cover that later. But that one doesn't have a switch for the buttons. So before I would make it way more complicated. When you would click the button, I will also need to change the display. But because the feature was added to check which button configuration is active, I was able to make this way more easier. Specifically, if you only want to have two sections of button options. So if the configuration one was clicked, so yeah, of course, then it checks like if the button configuration on configuration number one is active on connector number two, then switch connector number two to configuration number four. And it does the same when um, number one is active, then it's actually going to change it to number one. But what you want to do eventually, so you can change to number three or whatever configuration you like. Why I'm putting it to like one and four? Because eventually, if it's clicked here and this is false, then you want to change it to the other configuration. This only works when you have just two options of menu. If you want to create more, you need to be aware that you might want to include the display configuration change. But yeah, you get the cashier here. What you're going to do on having one menu, and that will allow you to switch the configuration. So that's easy. Last part I want to show on the advanced stuff. Let's just delete this one. Is the agenda, because that might be interesting for other people. So I've installed the application All iCall Calendar. You can connect it. I'm not gonna go through that. You can connect it, and then from there you can collect the data out of that All Call from that application. And then again, I've added a virtual device, and I created a second one. But you could also create you can also put it in the same one you created before. But I created the second one, and then you just write the data to this. And then from the flow, what you do is like you get the event from the agenda. You put the virtual device text field to whatever text you're getting back from the agenda, and then you show it on the configuration. And then even if there's no agenda item, I just put in like, okay, just put in there's no more agenda items. How does that look like in the configuration? So that's on my display. That's the display number two. So the label is social schools agenda, and I just put in item number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So item number 1, here put in item number 2, and so on and so on. And that's how you show. That's how you're able to show the information you're getting from an application, which is not directly able to configure through here. You can just write the data to a virtual device and get your number or your text fields from there. That's about it. And the last thing I do is just getting my garbage from my garbage collection application. It writes the information to, well, it's kind of hacky, but what it does is I use the information text field from the button plus to update it with the garbage information, which is which can work for only one item, right? And it's pretty easy to configure because that's how you can just put in the button plus. You can just put in a extra field. So here on the configuration on the display, what you can do is on the garbage, I just put in button plus and then choose for information. And it will just show the information it's getting from the flow, and the flow is getting it from the garbage. That is from, sorry. Yeah, so it just gets it directly from the button plus. So what you do is just like, then where is it? Button plus, button plus. You can choose set information text to whatever you want to do. And because it's already the garbage is already creating its own tag, I can just choose from the list for whatever one I'll write directly to that information text. It's not the ideal way I want to do it, but it was the first thing I did. So yeah, that's it. That's how I configured my button plus, and there's many more things I want to do, but hopefully this helps you, yeah, getting started. So thanks.